So again, my name is Anton Filatov, and I'll be teaching this course. This course will be focused on options and construction of backtest engine. This is basically a welcome lecture. It means that I'll talk more about the course, what you have to read at home or wherever, in order to be able to understand it better, what happens here, because I don't think it will be even possible to cover all the questions we need in lectures, or it will be like 2 lectures a day, maybe 1. Anyway, so I'll be talking about the project itself, what you need to read, and what we will build and how we will build it. So let's start with what we're trying to learn here. We're trying to learn here 2 things. First is options. We will focus mainly on FX options. Those are basically options on foreign exchange rates, which like Eurodollar or Pound dollar and etc. Right? We will learn about how to manage position. What is the option first? What are differences between options, main differences between options and other derivatives, and just basically other assets you can trade. And how do you manage the portfolio? What you should look for at portfolio level? What are the best practices in banks or hedge funds to manage their portfolio? And this is my most difficult part. I would say my experience, it takes about 1.5 years for a person who works 8 hours a day plus to understand like 90% of what he or she needs to work with options. So what we will do in order to mitigate this small problem is we will focus on small subset of problems, and thus we can be sure that there is a possibility to understand those. I can tell you what are those that we will not cover in the course, and you can read them by yourself or just work with them by yourself, but we will not cover them on lectures or in this course. What we will cover? Mostly we will cover everything until Greeks of the second order, some Greeks of the second order, and almost all Greeks of the first order. What are the Greeks? The Greeks are basically partial derivatives of the price or other, like basically partial derivatives for the options. They are called Greeks because, actually I'm not sure why, like because some reasons, that doesn't matter, but they called Greeks. We will learn everything what we need. Those are Greeks of the first order, almost all of them. We will take a look on all of them, but there are really difficult parts, so we will skip those. And we will take a look on some Greeks of the second order. This is for the options part, really briefly. And actually, we have like, how many people are here? It's about like 20 people. Okay, if you have questions, it's the best time to ask them, because I'm trying to tell really fast some big plans. So if you have questions, it's good time to ask. Okay, so I have 2 recommendations for the students. The first one, and I think the most important one, is to ask questions. If you ever become intern in some bank and you will not ask questions because you think that some people will look at you like wrongly because you ask questions or many questions, it's totally wrong. I think if intern doesn't ask questions, there are two possibilities. First, he's a genius, or she's a genius. And the second is that he's just afraid to ask questions because he doesn't understand what's happening. And no one does, besides geniuses, of course. But I haven't seen those. Like, maybe, but never. I don't think I ever seen those. So basically, people are just afraid of asking questions. One of your tasks will be ask questions. We never practiced this before, and we just assumed that people will start asking questions. But we will start. We'll make a homework, and part of homework will be ask questions. You need to formulate at least 2 questions that basically only one requirement. They make sense. Yeah, you don't ask things like how many fingers do you have on your right hand, or like is this video like black and white or always colors? You don't ask these things. But okay, I told you that we will cover some Greeks of the first order, like some of them. Isn't it interesting question which we will not cover, like for the start? Yeah. What is the duration of this course? Look, not sure actually. I'm projecting this for like a couple of months, maybe 3 months, something like this. Basically, we will start doing some work, and at some point we will stop doing it. So, I mean, the longer the course, the more you know. That's so easy. So I'm not sure about the whole duration. Maybe Andre is still online. He can answer that. I suppose it's about 3 months. Maybe there will be a second course that will be basically that will allow us to continue to do this work. This work can be done for 2 years straight, and still won't be done fully. So I think the longer the better. It fully depends on Andrew. Okay, so options. Could you please share the schedule for the advanced quantitative analytics program? I cannot, but Andrew can. Again, not sure he's online actually, so maybe after some time he'll do that.
Anton, also, I would like to ask, first of all, would you like so that we would turn on our video cameras? Just to be
It
able
basically
to.
depends on you. I'm pretty sure some of you are in the kitchen or somewhere else, but they don't want to turn on. It's not obligatory for sure. If you want, you can. You can. You can
But for you,
turn on, turn or don't turn. For what?
okay. But for you, there is no differences.
Oh
Or
yeah,
you
yeah.
prefer? Okay, okay.
I just see the share screen. I'm looking at my share screen and
Okay,
basically
okay,
myself. So I
fine.
really don't care.
Okay, okay. And the second question, so we got a description of the project. So should mm, we would do all these steps by ourselves, or it would be teamwork for
Yeah,
this
great
project?
question. So it will be teamwork in terms of there are steps I want everyone to take. I want everyone to take some specific steps to have at least smallest understanding of the crucial parts of the whole course. For example, every one of you will calculate some Greeks 2
Mhm.
ways, analytical and by shifting. Basically, you're taking derivatives by 2 points. Yeah, first derivative by 2 points. It's quite easy. I want everyone to do it because I think this is the basic. I think every one of you will do some more coding work. What I mean by that is that there'll be some exercise that is more code focused. Yeah, I want everyone to code a little bit. Nowadays, there is this vibe coding stuff. You can just basically ask ChatGPT or whatever you want, and it will make a nice code, at least better than you can do, most probably. By you, I mean like average person that haven't touched it. And so there will be parts that everyone will do. On the other parts, I want some segregation. There are always people who are more focused on coding exercises. That's great. I think there are lots of really interesting problems for them. Mostly they are connected with optimizations or some clever ways to understand how to do something faster. Yeah, and faster doesn't mean, most probably, it doesn't mean faster on average. It means faster on some metrics. We will talk about them later. Like, for example, 99 percentile. Yeah. So those are interesting tasks, and some people they are more focused on coding, and so they'll do it. Some people are more focused on formulas, mathematics, and stuff. We will target those groups with option math and some basically they'll calculate some metrics. So it's not like it's not really C++ heavy tasks. Yeah, I can't say that a child can do them, but a child who watched 15 lectures on YouTube on C++ can do them. Okay, in terms of coding. So we will more focus those people on mathematical parts of the problem.
Okay.
That's how it works. Again, if you think you want to do something that you're not assigned to do, it's not a big problem to reassign you. For example, you're a C++ guy who knows how to do some difficult stuff, who has some experience, but that's why you came on this course to understand more about finance, to understand more about options mathematics. It's no problem. I don't care actually what you do if you do it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. The question I would like to hear is actually it's very important. If you are looking at options, doesn't it make sense to look on some assets that are easier first? What I mean by that, options are derivatives, and they are the easiest ones. Yeah, you can go to the market and trade some shares or trade some just currencies. Yeah, and they're quite easy to trade. You buy at 10, you sell at 11, you earned $1 per one contract. That's easy. You just multiply two numbers. It's no brainer. Yeah. So does it make sense to look at those first? And the answer will be, yeah, that's basically what we will do. Those will be your first tasks. We will cover really briefly some simple assets that we need for further work. And those would be futures, mostly futures. So we will start our work by looking at futures, how they work, how they priced, where they trade, and what's the whole point of it. Yeah. So this will be the first part of the course. Actually, it will be, let's say, it's like a prologue in your PC game, right? You just learn how to press some 4 buttons to just start. Okay, there is a question. We will work with C++ only or Python too? That's actually a great question. What I noticed lately is that a lot of people, they know Python. Okay, they think they know Python, they like Python, and they want to work with Python. That's cool. Do you have some parts of this course in Python? We technically do have those, but at the second part, what I like you to build is basically, oh, I have actually a better instrument. So what I like you to build is some backtesting engine, yeah? And we will build some API to it, yeah? And this API can be and must be basically utilized by some Python script. Yeah, that's how it will work. So basically in Python here, you'll be formulating your strategies, right? The strategy, what is strategy? Basically how you formulate for the computer to sell high and buy low. And by API, you utilize this backtesting engine to understand if your strategy makes sense, right? By makes sense, what I mean, you understand some features of this back strategy, like what is the maximum drop down, what is the Sharpe ratio, what is the P&L on some period of time, and so on, right? So this part is written in Python. This is how you formulate your strategies, how you formulate some features you want, and so on, so on, so on. But the problem is you can't use it without the main part, which is back engine. You need something to access through this API, right? What I would recommend is for everyone to participate in C++ part. If you don't want to learn C++ and you don't want to work with it, you'll be just in this part of people who do more math work, and they utilize C++ only basically to type formulas, which is no different from Python. Okay, it's C++, it's different, but not very much, okay? And then when we will finish some most simple parts of the backtest, we will start Python part. That's when you can shine. If you know Python, that will be the part basically what you're waiting for. I would assume it's a month and a half, 2 months from now. So it's the second part of the course. After that, the people who were working on C++, mostly on the backtest, will continue to work on the backtest engine. And people who are working on the formulas with the strategy to work on Python, after that, we'll work on the Python part. So they'll formulate strategies. They can make some strategy factory stuff that basically, if you make some like idea, for example, if someone makes a strategy, right, you can test not only it, because for one strategy it's kind of fast to test it. You can basically shift it somehow, automatically shift it, and see if this shifted version is better than the person gave it to you. For example, say your strategy is if moving average, if I'm below moving average for X%, I'm buying. If I'm above moving average on X%, I'm selling, right? It's a nice strategy to test. Why not? And the part of the Python code can see, okay, and what if it's not X and 1.1 multiplied by X, or 0.9 multiplied by X, right? And test those edges too. Why not? And maybe some of them have better metrics than the one that person gave it. So you notify the user that, your strategy is maybe not bad enough, but I have a better one. Basically, you're with the shifted parameters. For example, there are plenty of things to do. Not all of them are smart, but they're all good to learn something, right? That was a long answer on your question about C++ or Python. Okay. We actually transition to the second part of this welcome lecture is what are we building here? What we are building is a backtest engine that can be accessed through API, through multiple means, most probably Python. It can be some agents. You can build some agents fast, and they'll send requests to the backtest engine. What will be inside backtest engine? What is it? Basically, it's software that gives you some metrics on the strategies you give to the software on market data. It's kind of easy and not to say that, but I mean, like, it's easy. This is definition, right? But it's actually, if you think about it, it's not very easy. What are features? The features can be quite simple. The first, like, I think what the most important features are profit and loss and some maximum drop down for the strategy. Those are nice features. Sharpe ratio, some wall weighted P&L metrics. are nice. Actually, for the backtest, it doesn't matter. You can invent your own feature and just insert it. What is market data? Market data is basically prices. It's not. I would say it's not prices. Mainly, it's prices for some assets. Actually, everything that can generate features that are important for a trader is a market data. Can be anything. It can be some wild things, like if you see some person telling about the performance of the company, you can watch his face with some AI and generate some features, like if he's sad or happy, is he's lying or not. Those are market data too. So what we will focusing on mostly are prices. And what are prices? Basically, assets are trading on one or multiple exchanges. They generate price when the trade happens, or when someone wants to buy or wants to sell. It's also generate prices. If someone trades, it's a trade price. If someone wants to sell, it's an ask price, and so on and so on. So we will work with those prices. We will have some data sets, and basically backtest engine allows you to, again, test your strategy on those data sets. I think the main question now is it important, really? Like, are we doing important work, or we are doing something like like, let's calculate some Greeks and make some graphs of those Greeks. That's a fun part, because the graphs are curvy. Okay, that's actually a fun part. The graphs of Greeks are curvy. But backtest engine, first of all, I think it's interesting because it's hard. It can be really hard. It depends how deep you go, how good you want it to be. It can be really hard to make good one, though it can be easy. You can make if you open Google Tables, you can make a simple backtest in like one evening with vibe coding to be actually a decent one for some systematic trading, really. So it's easy to start. It's really hard to make a good one. So it's a good, I think it's a good exercise to learn something. Most important, it can be used in real life. There are a lot of assets you can trade, and follow your ideas how to trade those. You'll be able to better understand if those ideas would work in the past. It doesn't mean it will work in the future. If your idea doesn't work in the past, it means it can technically work in the future, and vice versa. Though people tend to believe backtests, in finance especially. So it's useful. It can be hard, can be easy. So it's a good exercise. And for people who like optimizing some C++ code until like branch predictions or vectorization or whatever you like, actually, it can be even fun. So yeah, I would say it's a good task. My personal opinion. Okay, how the course will work? What we will do exactly? Sorry. Are there some questions on this backtest? I'm trying to describe everything really simple, in simple words, because I suppose there are people here who are not familiar with finance, and there are people here who are not very familiar with C++. So I don't want to go deep here. But if you have some questions, it's about time to ask them about the second part or the first one.
So, am I right that in theory we can use this project in real life? For instance, if I would consider to trade on, let's say, some Binance or some stuff like this, then in theory I can use this project to run my strategies, to test them out, and maybe to trade.
Yeah. How would I formulate that? First of all, in my personal opinion, if you want to trade something serious, like not something for fun, you have to have backtest. You can't have it. At least you have to have backtest for some risk metrics you need to generate, right? Like what is a big position? What is a small position? It depends not only on the capital you have under management. It also it, it 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 mostly depends on the assets you are trading, on the portfolio you have, right? So you have to have it. You need to backtest your idea somehow. We always do that. If you want to buy, I don't know, like 1,000 or 1,000 euros on Eurodollar, yeah, we understand that it can go like 1% or 2% per day. If it's a huge day, like some big news are coming, it can be 3, 4, 5%. If you're trading some $1,000 on dollar Turkey, it can go 20% per day, right? So for you it generates different risk metrics. Though what I just did, though, to name you those numbers, I just did a quick back test from the back of my head because I kind of remember the worst days in both currency pairs. But you can do it much better with much more difficult instruments. For example, it's not so easy to make those assumptions for back of options, right? For portfolio of options, right? So you have to have it. The second, will it earn you money? I cannot I cannot guarantee you that, and no one can. That's obvious. Most of all, any course on something related to trading will tell you that not a single book will guarantee you that you'll make money. I mean, it can guarantee you that you'll make money if you pass some job interviews and you get hired by a bank or a hedge fund. Yeah, they'll pay you. That way, I can guarantee you that this course will help make you money because you will learn a thing or two about options, a thing or two about the backtesting. So there's some chance you'll be asked those questions. And when you do something and you have a practice, it feels when people ask questions, they can guess if you just know it by a book or you've tried it, you've lost some money on it, and you tried it before, right?
Okay.
So again, you need it. Most probably, it will save you some money in terms of you would have on your portfolio the risk you want to have. So I can guarantee you that in terms of risk, you'll have more insight about the risk of your portfolio after building and using this, maybe not this, but any backtest engine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's actually a nice question. I always thought that when I told you that the person needs usually about a year and a half to understand about 80% of what he needs to understand the options. I told you that the person works with options, right? It's really important to start doing something by hands. I'm not talking about trading options. Okay. If you want to buy a book, the book on options usually cost about £100, say $150, yeah, on around $150. If you invest 1/10 of that in options and you monitor the risk and every day you calculate your position by yourself, I think that you will learn more than by reading this book. And I'm talking almost about like every book. So in these terms, yeah, it makes sense to trade if the capital at risk is less than a price of a book. Yeah. Anyway, what makes the backtester difficult? What makes it difficult? Okay, it's a great question. When I told you that you can build one with the Google tables in one evening with live coding or without one, doesn't matter. It matters, but you can do without one. What I mean is that mostly this will be some vectorized backtest. Basically, you just run through each day and see what happens to the portfolio. It actually works well enough for risk management, and it works not very good for strategy testing because it can't answer you on some particular questions. So what we will be building is event-based backtesting. Basically, we will simulate, like when you have a trading system. Say you have some trading system. There's basically There's basically some kind of a computer somewhere. I wrote like PC, personal computer, can be not personal. Anyway, so it just receives a lot of messages, yeah, and it replies on some pack of messages with some orders. What kind of messages does it receive? Mostly it's market data. It's market data. It's like, yo, mate, this stuff just traded at 10, now at 10:02, 10:03, again 10, and so on. Yeah, it just receives constant stream of data from one or more exchanges. And when it thinks that it's about time, it just issues some orders. It can be those, like, let's say it's exchange, yeah. So and it sends some orders like, I want to buy, I want to sell, I want to cancel all my orders, what are my positions, and so on, so on, so on. This is how it works on a big scale of things, right? So in backtest, we will simulate this part. We'll feed the backtest, the core of the backtest with some messages that are pre-recorded. Those are market data, right? We will feed it with those. And this backtest will simulate what it would do if it would be this training computer, right? It sounds easy. The first problem is obvious, is performance. There can be terabytes of data. Easy. On options, really easy. It's like on one small exchange, it's usually gigabytes per day. You need at least like 2, maybe 3. And usually you don't do backtest on anything that is smaller than a year. So usually it's about 5 years plus. Let's say 10. So if you're doing 10 years, 250 days of training days a year by, say, 3 gigabytes per day, what do you get? You get a quite interesting question. How do you process that amount of data? And it can be really challenging to make it fast. And again, we are testing, let's say, one strategy, or we're testing 100 strategies or 1,000 strategies. It's also a great question. Like, if you're testing 1,000 strategies, does it 1,000 times more difficult than one? On average, no. On average, I would assume it's about 10 strategies that are totally different. But there are a lot of questions like this. So the performance, I would say it's the difficult part. The second one is the main problem occurs when you're backtesting something. It works. You're looking at basically some report that says, if you would do this strategy a year ago, you would be rich. And you're thinking, oh, okay, if I'll start tomorrow, I'll be rich in a year from now. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes it does, but like less than 1% of a chance, right? And it suddenly works much worse than what it was on the backtest. And then there are a lot of questions. What can it be? Is the backtest wrong? Do I use some data that basically I can't use? For example, if I'm interpolating between two prices, this interpolation has some information about two prices. One of them most probably is in the future, right? So if I have a price on a Tuesday and on a Friday, and I interpolate between them, those prices between them will have information about Friday price, which I actually cannot know before Friday, right? This will give you some bias. This will give you some unreasonable earnings. So that's problem number one. You need to look out for those. There is some data that can be corrupt. Some exchanges sometimes give you data with the errors with them. Sometimes it's not the exchange itself, it's the method of transporting the data between you two. There are like 50 questions, and none of them are easy. Some of them should be, like, for example, a nice question is, you have two exchanges that trade one exact stock. It's the same one, right? And one exchange is a really, say, bad one. So like really small amount of people are trading on this exchange, say 10 times less than on a big one exchange. And you get two messages. One of them says that on a big exchange, the price is 10 at some timestamp. But the other one tells you that it's 10.1. But the timestamp is much closer to the current time. So it's later. And the question for you, what do you believe more? The more exact price, but a while ago, in some terms of time, yeah, a while ago, or less exact price, but almost just now. Those can be estimated. There are some models. You can incorporate those latency models in the backtest. There are like, I would say there are about 10, 12 nice problems you can think about when constructing this backtest. So they are not like rocket science at all, but they are quite interesting. They have some beautiful solutions and so on. Okay, is there any specific with options? Yeah, the specific with options is that you need much more features to trade those. You need, okay, I'll try to explain it another way. Somehow, when you're trading some shares, you have just the price of the share, yeah? And that's cool. You trade those, you sell high, you buy low. Great, you try and do that. In options, you're kind of managing not one price, you're managing like a vector of some numbers, if I would say so. So you need to manage like this vector, not one number, not two numbers, say about 7 numbers you need to manage. In order to manage those, sometimes you need to lower just one number or two numbers in this vector, yeah, components. And you need to think how you would do this. You need to think carefully what exact option do you need to trade to change those two numbers and not to change others. You change others too, but change them much smaller manner than those two. So it's kind of, there are a little bit more dimensions into options than into other trading. Again, some of you may tell me like, okay, but if you have correlated assets, even if they are easy underneath, like 6 shares, you have actually multi-dimensional space because there are those correlations and stuff. You'll be right. But the problem is that in this case, if you're trading options on those shares, you again add in some dimensions, right? Okay, where is the main difficulty when we make it less trivial? In backtesting, I would assume you're asking about backtest. I would say performance. If you make a nice performance backtest, it's very hard to do, I would say. Again, for this course, we actually have some machine to work on. It's a nice server. I think I'll finish to setting up in a week or two, so you can. We will test our first models of this backtest engine on some 64-core machine with plenty of room for storage and RAM. and we'll take a look how performance matters. Okay, what is the frequency of the presses which you are going to feed on the backtester? It actually depends. Look, we can feed something like ticks, which are like something about a second or sub-second, or we can feed basically all the messages, which are, I would say, a couple hundreds a second, something like this, maybe 1,000 a second. It's actually, it matters in terms of performance. It doesn't matter in anything else. So we can find any data we want. There are a lot of, we can basically buy some data for US stock options. It's like terabytes and terabytes of data. Whatever we want, I would say. If there will be some people who want to make it like really high performance, it's no problem to buy data and some hardware to make it happen. I'm going to mimic some real life exchange behavior. Yeah, sure. I'm not sure like what kind of real life exchange behavior you mean. Like, for example, I'm working on some pretty non-reliable exchange that can basically, here's example of a real life exchange behavior. You're trading an exchange and then it cancels the trades. It just tells you that those trades are canceled. Do you have some button you need to push in your trading robot to tell it that those trades that he received from exchange like 20 minutes ago that are done, that they are not done? That's a real life exchange. Or for example, it can just not work for 2 hours and you are sitting on the risk. The machine has some risk on it. Your portfolio has some risk on it. And for 2 hours, it doesn't trade. And guess what? The correlation between exchange doesn't work and some real bad things are happening to the market is positive, right? Usually stuff doesn't break on the light day. Usually stuff breaks because everyone wants to use it and it breaks. And you're one of them. You need to use it. It doesn't work. So yeah, if you're talking about this, we will not do this. I mean, if you want, you can tell me, okay, I have me and my friend, and we want to think about those problems, and we want to incorporate those problems in the backtest. Why not? I mean, I don't care. I think it's a nice task. I think it's a nice thing to do. We can talk about it and we can work it out. Well, why not? There are also exchanges that are trading some crypto stuff that have some problems with market data and some limitations on amount of orders you can send, on amount of trades you can do. Most probably, if you're talking about those, we will not again incorporate those by default. If you have some real problem you want to solve, yeah, it's not a problem. What I do care about is that we build this backtest engine. We build some APIs. We do some proof of concept searches on Python and test those, right? That's I really care about. If I don't think that you working on another part of the project will diminish the probability of the main project to be done, if I don't see this risk, I don't care. Let's do it. Why not? If the task makes sense, interesting, we can do it. It's no problem. Okay. Any other questions? If something, just put it on the chat. What we will do exactly? Today or tomorrow, you will receive some books. Here, I want you to listen carefully. There will be pages. We'll provide you some pages that you need to read. Until you read those pages, don't proceed to read further. It's not that there is something interesting further and I don't want you to read it. No, I just want you to read those pages first. And because the books are huge, they're not easy ones. Again, not rocket science, but they consume time. So I want you to read those exact pages. So we will be on the same foot when we start to learn about options and some backtesting, right? So you receive those books with pages to read, and we will do some infrastructure work. I need some person or two to set up some GitHub for the code, some task system, so who is doing what, and so on. It will take about an hour or two to make those. So we will be ready for the second meeting. What will be on the second meeting? I will tell you about options. You'll ask your questions. After all questions asked, I'll ask 3 random person. I'll just use some random generator in my head. Some questions. If you don't answer them, I'll propose you to think about those next time to ask them preliminary. Okay, so before I ask you, this is the greatest opportunity for you to ask questions. You just use it, okay? And yeah, you have some previous webinars. They're mostly, I'll talk about them later. So we'll talk about options on the next lecture, and you'll receive some real tasks, what to do. And so on. We'll do this every time. I'll tell you something about options, something about backtests, and besides that, as your homework, you'll do this backtest code, right? If you have some big problems or we will not finish something in the lecture, there may be some 20-minute lecture in between. We will think about it, or some lecture will be like 20 minutes longer, whatever. It can be flexible. In 2 months' time, what I expect to be done is some minimal working phase of backtest, and you understanding everything about first-order Greeks of options. Okay, not everything, but you understand first-order Greeks in options. Okay, about those webinars. So for some time, about 10 years, I was teaching options in paradigm that you don't need to know formulas to understand Greeks. That was a fun paradigm because in real trading, you need to have some intuition about what you're doing. Just using formulas is enough only if you're a genius. And it might be so, I don't know. But I would estimate those chances are pretty slim. So let's first try to develop some intuition, right? And this helps a lot because when you're using formulas and you encounter that in the future, you need to understand what dimension you're in, what are the scales of the numbers you need to put in. Those numbers you get, what are those? You get like 4 or 5 million. What are those? Like, is it 5 million shares, $5 million for the share, or those are shares in dollars? Those questions, like they sound silly. They're not. I've seen people with 10 years experience who were making those mistakes. So just using formulas without understanding what you expect to get is much more harder than using formulas with just some expectations, what you're getting. So what were those lectures about? They were about understanding options without formulas. We were using some simple logics behind the mechanics of the option itself to understand how it works, what are the dependencies, what is the sign of some Greek, like is it positive, is it negative, and what is the magnitude of the Greek, like is it big when this happens, or is it small when this happens, and so on. So they're not exactly what you need. They might be useful. What you need exactly will be basically in those books. we will provide to you. And I would focus mainly on those. Okay, are there any questions? Actually, I planned about half an hour, and it's already an hour. Okay. Also, there will be some means of communication. I'm not sure which are they. Andrew Zlotnik will provide those for you to ask questions in between. Most probably, when you do your task, you encounter some problem you can't manage for an hour or two. And that's most probably because you or misunderstood the assignment, or I made an error when I made one. Anyway, or it's just impossible to do under the assumptions you're doing, on whatever, like millions of reasons can be. The most efficient part for you to go on in this at this point is to ask question. Okay. It's a 15th time maybe I told you ask questions. I really do believe that the most value you get from this course is not like building your backtest engine, actually, is the experience, which is at least at half of the experience comes from questions you ask and get answers. Okay. Okay. If everything is clear, I think that's basically it for the first time. Okay, the guidelines. Next weekend we have the basically first lecture. Today, tomorrow you receive the books. I expect you to read those pages before the lecture. I highly do not recommend you to leave it on the last 2 hours before the lecture. It makes almost no sense. And I will need a person or two to set up some infrastructure. I think I'll discuss this with Andrew. If someone wants to volunteer, you can contact me, and basically we'll do infrastructure for this project. Again, it will take about an hour or two, most probably.